All right, let's talk about puppets. It's a bit of an odd way to start, but I thought this was important for me to get off my chest. When I was younger, when I was growing up,
You're
I
still
was
young.
when I was yeah, or yeah. So when I was younger than I am now, I was afraid of puppets. It's really weird, but the puppets, like the ones on Sesame Street, especially that guy Elmo. That guy used to freak me out. My God, but those puppets really scared me, and for some reason, that memory stayed with me for so many years. It seems kind of irrelevant, and it probably is, but that seemingly unimportant memory has actually stayed with me since I was younger. And the weird part is that it actually resurfaced a couple of days ago when I was brainstorming ideas for what to speak to you guys about here while I was praying, while I was asking God about what kind of message or is He going to deliver through me today. And I was pondering about that, this whole memory about puppets came up, and because that memory resurfaced just very recently, it actually served as a huge inspiration for today's word. But I digress. Okay, we'll leave that there for now. You can have your own opinions about puppets. I think that they're weird and they look like the devil's children. But it's all right. You guys can assume whatever it is that you like. But yes, with that being said, we do have a point of focus for our word this Sunday morning, and that would be a very powerful verse in the book of John, chapter 14, verse 27. So I'll read the verse, and if you'd like to flip through your Bible and read it along with us, that would be very welcome. But John 14, verse 27 says this: Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. I'll read it one more time just to clarify. John 14, verse 27. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. And yeah, that's going to be our main point of focus. That's going to be what the verse that we're building our foundation of everything else that we're going to be speaking about today. But one thing that this verse really exemplifies is the fact that the Bible really stresses peace and just being content. And yet that very object of peace is a commodity right now. That peace is in shorter supply than actual supplies, like toilet paper at the nearest department store. And there is no peace right now, and the reason for that would be that this wave of fear is now sweeping our nation, and it's constricting people, it's keeping people in bondage, and this bondage, it leads to restlessness and panic, in which we are experiencing the side effects of even today. I mean, especially today, especially with everything that's going on. And fear is a powerful weapon. Fear is a very efficient and powerful weapon, although we often wish it weren't. That whole memory about puppets that I was speaking about earlier and this concept of fear, it really got me thinking, and it got these different thoughts that I had floating around in my head to just come together into one uniform idea. You see, encouragement is also in short supply, and without courage, we can't beat or defeat the very thing, the very weapon that's keeping us down, which is fear. See, half the battles that we face in our lives stem from fear, and sometimes just understanding that enemy can be enough to shift the tides of this battle that we fight every morning as soon as we wake up into the moment that we lie our heads to go to sleep. And understanding this enemy could see our own personal victories, whether it's financial, emotional, or physical, unfold in our very own lives. See, the reason that I talked that memory about the puppets came up was because I was reminded of a blog that I wrote a while back, which talked about how fear is often like a puppet trick. I don't know if you guys have ever had the pleasure of playing with the shadow puppets, not the weird ones that you see on TV, the shadow puppets, which are like little creatures that you can make with your hands in front of a flashlight, and that projection allows there to be a much larger picture on the wall that you're projecting with the flashlight. So you kind of do a little gesture with your hand that makes certain creatures or whatever it is appear. I was never good at it anyway, so I don't know what mine were supposed to be, but yeah. So that was a really enjoyable game, especially when you were just kind of alone and you had a flashlight, you had time to spare, so you would make. And especially in church, I remember that we would have the projector that projects onto the wall, and the kids' pastime would be coming and doing stuff just to scare the adults in the back seat. But Yeah, if you guys understand what I'm talking about, it's these shadow puppets, and I realized that this is yet another analogy for this very talked about term, which is fear. See, if we can relate this concept of fear to an analogy of puppets, we can better understand what fear is actually doing to our life. Half the battles that we fight are actually things that we create in our own mind, monsters that we blow up inside of our subconscious that may not actually be there. Because fear is, we talked about this before, and that was the fact that fear stands for false evidence appearing as real. If you haven't connected the dots, that means it's an acronym for fear. And our family likes to say that. It's kind of something, it's a phrase that we like to use because it shows us that really fear is just a presumption of something bad waiting ahead for us, and worry created by that presumption. If you're afraid of something to come, that causes instant panic right now. If you can see something bad unfolding one day, 2 days, or even 5 months down the line, you're already prepping yourself to be afraid and to be wary for that situation. That's what fear is. Now, if the devil can create a weapon, if the devil can fashion a weapon that doesn't even have to affect you physically, he's already won the battle. The concept of fear is that it does not have to hit you physically. The thing that you fear may not actually even come to pass, but if the devil can make you believe that there is existing danger in front of you, he's already won. He's already taken the battle. And I think that's a powerful truth for us to know, because if you can let yourself succumb to what the devil is placing before you, the shadow, the puppet trickery, then you've already given up the chance of victory. Because in that song that we sang earlier at the beginning of this whole Sunday set, it said that we're going to see a victory, but at the beginning of that song, it mentioned the weapon. The weapon is formed, but it won't prosper. It can't prosper if you can be courageous. The thing is that the courage is not being afraid, if that makes sense. Courage isn't the absence of fear. All the most courageous people in the Bible, in the world itself, were afraid. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but it is being brave in the face of it. Bravery in the face of fear is courage, and not the absence of fear at all. We'll all face trials, we'll all face tribulations, and we'll all face the concept of fear. The puppets will be playing and dancing in front of our eyes as shadows, but those shadows are only mere projections of something much, much more minuscule before it. So if we can understand that the master of puppets, who is Lucifer himself, is actually creating these illusions for us to believe, then we've already handed over our freedom and our power of choice to him, if we can believe mere illusions that he's creating with these puppets. And that puppet is something that's personal to you. The puppet that's playing tricks on your eyes is personal to your situation in your life. But if we can learn to be courageous in the face of fear and not just try and put it away from us entirely, if we try to get rid of fear entirely, then we won't succeed. But if we can aim to be successful and courageous in the face of that fear, I think that we can do a lot to continue to progress towards being bold warriors in the face of something that could normally make any other person fear. If we just go back to that verse that we talked about in the beginning, John 14 verse 27, the Bible once again, it stresses, it emphasizes peace I leave with you, and my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives you. The world will give you a stack of emotions to use when things get tough. We've been taught and trained to behave and react in a certain way when we see something, a looming puppet in front of us. We've been taught to panic. We've been taught to embrace paranoia. But if we can take not what the world is giving us and take more of what God is giving to us, this peace that passes all understanding. And the thing is that if we can understand that and cultivate that peace in our hearts, we can stop something that is false appearing as real in our minds and stop it from becoming a physical threat, because the more and more it snowballs as a minor threat in your head, the larger the threat it becomes in real life. So I think that we're going to wind down this time of worship and prayer and word with this word. Don't let the puppet scare you just the same way it did to me when I was a kid. Because those shadows are only looming projections of what is ahead of you. And if you can be brave and bold in the face of fear and know that you and God together can fell 10,000s, then you have nothing to be afraid of in this world that we're living in.